On May 17th, 3 organizers from the Schiller Institute spoke with Mayor Amable de Jesús Hernández of San José Colinas in Honduras and informed the mayor about the existence, purpose, and method of the Committee for the Coincidence of Opposites. This came as a result of 7 mayors from Honduras asking Salvadorian President Nayib Bukele for vaccines after the Honduran central government denied 250,000 vaccines from the Chinese. Bukele responded and donated 34,000 vaccines to the Honduran municipalities. This act alone is significant because these two countries share a bloody history. It goes back to the late 1960s when tensions between the two countries arose due to land disputes. As a result, a war would be fought between the two countries in 1969, today known as the Soccer Wars. El Salvador and Honduras collaborating today is an expression of what we mean by the coincidence of opposites, working together against this deadly pandemic in spite of their earlier violent history. We present here an excerpt of the dialogue with Mayor Amable de Jesús Hernández.
Definitivamente, yo pienso que solamente con la solidaridad.
I think that only with solidarity, with humanitarian actions, with exchanges and mutual cooperation among countries, peoples, neighbors, families, institutions, among all of us, will we be able to defeat this pandemic. There's no other way to be able to do it. This has overwhelmed human capabilities. It has exceeded the capabilities of even the most formidable health systems of the world, and it has collapsed them. The only way to deal with this is with solidarity. And I think that's what Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele has done with us, from the poor C-category municipalities of Honduras, because it was an act of humanity, of solidarity, of brotherhood, of altruism and camaraderie, which doubtless strengthens the relationship of our peoples, and it promotes solidarity. There's no question that this has to be an example for other countries to do the same, to share vaccines, which is what is needed right away to be able to vaccinate the population and defeat this pandemic. That's the only way.
Sí, nosotros viendo la situación difícil que tenemos en el país.
Look at the difficult situation we have in the country, because our country is pretty much at the end of the line in the world for obtaining vaccines. From local governments, we've also made contact, just as we did with El Salvador, with Cuba, because Cuba is about to announce the approval of its Soberana 2 vaccine, which is a very good vaccine. And in fact, Havana is already vaccinated with this vaccine, which is still being tested, but it's already in phase 3 and is about to be produced. And in some of our municipalities, we may be able to obtain it. The same with Nicaragua, Venezuela, Russia, the United States, and China. We mayors are going to be meeting shortly with China's ambassador to El Salvador to see how we can get more vaccines for our country. Because really the human drama we're living through is very complicated. The government was overconfident and isn't receiving the necessary number of vaccines that the population is demanding. And our people are dying. Thank God we, our municipality, and the other 6 municipalities will be able to give the first dose of the vaccine over the next 2 weeks to the entire over 60 population and those with special needs and frontline defenders against the pandemic.
Todas las alcaldías de Honduras, las 298 alcaldías, estamos ya en función de ver cómo vamos a conseguir la vacuna, cada una para inmunizar la población.
All of the municipalities of Honduras, all 298, are working on getting vaccines to inoculate the population. This doesn't have anything to do with politics. It's a matter of humanity, of solidarity. Our central government is paying the price for what others have done and is doing things that no one asked them to do just to make a good impression. And that has for sure cost many lives in our country because we have lost outstanding medical professionals, which has hurt us deeply to have them go, who are on the front lines. We hope that situation can be turned around now and as quickly as possible to get enough vaccines to cover our whole population in whatever way possible, through the central government, through the mayors, however we can. Thank God in our municipalities we are going to at least vaccinate the high-risk population and older adults. In fact, when I was with President Bukele, I told him that I had liked that part of his speech with the diplomats. I don't know if you know this, but when President Bukele puts his baseball cap on backwards, it means he's really fighting. He says that. When I put my cap on backwards, that's when I'm really fighting. That day I wanted to do that, but they wouldn't let me. That day he really gave them a lecture. The whole speech he gave to the diplomatic corps. Because that's been the worst of our problems. Our countries are rich. They are not poor. We have plenty of resources. The problem is the extractive model that they've imposed on us, the exploitation, the hijacking of the institutions of state in order to benefit power groups. In fact, the origins of the 2009 coup were exactly that. Because government should have an agenda which allows for the development of the people. And as you said, all of the policies of the International Monetary Fund are out to make sure there are no investments in health. The more collapsed the health system in the country is, the better. And that's exactly what the pandemic has laid bare. The humanitarian catastrophe that is reflected in the hundreds of children, men, women, elderly, and adults who leave every single day en route to the American dream. This is caused precisely by the same model that has been imposed on us. So many conditionalities have been imposed on our states that they've pretty much wanted to direct the entire policy of these governments from Washington or from the offices of the IMF. And logically, that has led to the entire institutional collapse that has now sunk those countries in the worst misery. So this choice we made is a result of the collapse of the country's public health system, which is costing hundreds of lives every day. Look, there's now enormous pressure from the neighboring municipalities because they all want vaccines. We all want vaccines. But the few doses we got were for our town, for our elderly. But we have to keep working at it. And that's what all of us, the mayors, are doing, trying to figure out how and where we can arrange for vaccines.
La prioridad para Honduras en este momento es conseguir vacuna, no importa cuál.
Because that's the most important thing now. The priority for Honduras at this point is to get vaccines. It doesn't matter which, the Russian one, the Chinese one, the Israeli one, the Cuban, Pfizer, Johnson, AstraZeneca, any of them. All that matters is that it be a vaccine for the people. That's the only way that we are going to overcome this pandemic crisis.
Hay que globalizar el humanismo.
We have to globalize solidarity. We have to globalize humanism. We have to globalize brotherhood. This gesture with us by President Bukele created what has to be seen as a gesture to be imitated by many governments in the world so that we can come out on top of the pandemic.